Recording in progress.
Welcome to Comics in the Making. My name is Ryan Holgerson. I'm the creator of Slackmatic, and I'm joined, as always, by Levi Erickson, the creator of The Big. Levi, how you doing, man?
Dude, it's awesome. Today's a great day, and I can't wait to wrap up part two of our convention, putting conventions under the microscope.
Right. So, if you didn't check it out, our first part was the cons of cons, and we kind of went through what we don't like about conventions, about what some of the missteps of conventions can be. Maybe why you don't need to go to comic conventions if you're trying to get your art out there. But Levi, you like conventions. I think you like conventions more than I do. Why why do you like comic conventions?
Uh, they're just fun, it's kind of weird because I tell myself I don't like being, like crowds and stuff like that, and introverted and whatever, but on some level, I really, really do. As a creator, it's great to make those connections with people, even if they don't buy something. To have someone stop, flip through your stuff, have that short engagement. That's that's I mean, you can't make a car payment off of that, but that is very fulfilling. Um, the energy, especially at some of the conventions that we have around our area, it's electric sometimes. You know, Obviously we're in the Charlotte area, and Heroes Con is the big convention that takes place every year, for decades. And it really is amazing to know that you're just like, rubbing shoulders with cool people. I mean, I got a story about last year's Heroes Con, we can get to later on. But yeah, the engagement, after spending those days with, probably creators on your same level in your little area. I call it the neighborhood, like two tables this way, a couple tables, whoever's across from you. Um, if you can build up a rapport with all those creators, then it just kind of like raises everybody up a little bit as far as spirits go, whether or not things are selling.
Yeah. Well, and I've had friendships that have sparked from, sitting next to some of those creators. Um, and I still run into them to this day. Some people that I've, tabled with 15, 20 years ago. And it's, and that's something where the, you may not have ever met that person or identified with their work before you're spending 1 to 2 to 3 days with someone, you know.
Hmm?
And and
Misery loves
usually
company.
I don't, yeah, and well, and I don't usually, I'm trying to think. There have been a few times where I've been sitting next to someone who I wish I wasn't. Uh Usually it's Levi, but you
Get
know.
out the town.
But usually it's been overwhelmingly positive. When I'm sitting next to someone, it's like you said, you're all in the same boat. Um, and I think, that's one thing that's good about conventions is meeting those other artists and realizing that you are all in the same boat and you kind of do have this almost therapy session with
Yeah.
them. I always almost feel that like you're you're just you you're all in it together, and and then you might meet someone who you think is actually ahead of you maybe in their career and stuff like that, and you find out that what, it's just as frustrating for them and just as hard for them as it is for you.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen a few times where I've met people who I'm like, well, that guy's made it. And then I've talked to him and I realize, oh no, he's got a day job too, and he's
Yep.
hustling and doing all this stuff as well. Um,
Yep.
so I think that part of it is really great. Um, Now I said in the cons episode that I'm not sure that if any of that networking actually helped my career or not as a comic creator. Um, and I think I'd stand by that. And that's not to, make anyone feel bad or whatever. But I mean, to me, your career is your own, and you need to, if it's not where you want it to be, then you need to figure out why that is. That shouldn't have anything to do with someone that you meet at a comic convention not shouting you out and
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, met Levi Erickson this at this show. He's a really great guy. You should check out his comics. They're awesome." You know,
Right.
shouldn't you shouldn't be expecting that. It should be more about, the friends you make along the way,
Oh,
not what
100%.
it's going to do for you, you know.
Yeah, and I have lots of great memories of you know, comic book conventions, going back to when I was, just going as a fan and how, I'm not going to get into we all know about the 90s and the early 90s and, going to San Diego Comic-Con in 92 and 93 when it was electric and comics were about, you know, and it really was. It really was. And I was just a fanboy going through the whole thing. But it was a wild scene. And then smaller conventions that I'd go to and meet, smaller, more local creators and start having more dialogues with people and kind of, oh, that's how you do that, or oh, that's how you get from here to here, because I didn't understand, as far as workflow and process, where you can get those kind of tips. There's always because I think in comics, even now, everyone understands that someone gave them the nod or some kind of break that if it wasn't for that, it would have been a lot more difficult for them to get where they are now. Um, I think that's sort of a tradition in comics. Um, a lot of creators are closed off to, dealing with people, but I think overall, if you're decent, and personable, people will open up to you. I remember going to Heroes Con. This was probably 2012 or 13ish. And I just went, not tabling, but I just went checking it out. And I had just done some work for a small publisher called Heroes Fallen Studios, and they did like the untold stories of Iraq and Afghanistan. It was like military stories, and I got to work on a Korean War book they did. But I'm just walking through as a fan, and here's a guy, and I hate it because I can't remember his name, but he was currently in real time working on X-Men title for Marvel. And it was Friday, so Friday's a slow day. If you want to meet people, and if you can get it on Friday, that's a good time to that's a good day to kind of be able to get in front of people and talk to them on a more low key basis. So I was just kind of talking with this creator, from a fan point of view. He was very nice. And then I mentioned that I had just done that work. And then the whole conversation changed. And all of a sudden I'm his peer. And he's starting to like, have a conversation with me about like, yeah, man, you know, I get frustrated. Don't you get frustrated when, an editor hands you this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just going, oh yeah, that really pisses me. He pisses me off. He was doing total shop talk with me. Um, because I said, yeah, I just did this little thing for this small press book, but he accepted me as a peer. So it's like you say, I mean, you may think that person has, oh, you're doing stuff for Marvel, and I've got an idea of what that looks like. And mileage varies greatly on that, but it's still a cool memory for me, even if I can't remember the guy's name. But I felt that I was accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, and when it comes down to it, we're kind of all doing the same thing.
Right.
It might be at different levels or whatever, but all of us are telling stories um, and using words and pictures.
Hmm.
And, there's no difference, you know. Uh, I like I said, I like doing shows. I get excited about it. I think I probably have the best memories of conventions from just being a guest, though. Um, I like just walking around and seeing what people have and seeing what vendors have. And, I'm not all about comics. I like I like movies, I like books, I like TV shows. I like pop culture. So I like just going to a pop culture convention. I think there's something about those shows where uh I think it takes even though there it is a bigger level of popularity, the nerds have won, but a lot of those people that are into that, we are more introverted. We don't get out a lot. And to be in a place where you're among your people is great. You don't have to worry about being, a super nerd and being insecure. Everyone's insecure there, and so I think there's something really uh kind of beautiful about that.
Yeah. No, no.
Uh,
I mean, the camaraderie, the connection, the sort of like, oh, cool. You know, I don't have to explain what I like because they already know to a large extent, you know.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it depends on the show for me. I know when we were at Matthews Comic Con and you were getting that book, and we were in the vendor section, and they're asking me what I was into, and
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you don't have anything that I want, like
Oh,
literally nothing.
well, I mean and that's the other part of it. We were talking kind of focused on creators, and then you got the vendor side of the house. Um, and just as creators can have a lot of different types of way they try to appeal to the passersby, who are experts in the artist alley dodge. Um, vendors, sometimes you get those like Carnival Barker, like, oh, you won't find any cheaper comics in here. Come on, what do you want? What are you looking for? Or, and it's like just the hard sell stuff isn't cool with me. Maybe some people love that. Maybe some people want someone to scream in their face of how great the product they have that they didn't even ask about is. It's not my style.
Well, no, it's not mine either. I think it's important to be somewhere in the middle. Um, you know, uh, the creators are probably the vast majority of them are pretty insecure, uh, uh, at a loss for word. They're just insecure people.
Introvert,
Uh,
just kind of like,
Introverts. They're that yeah, introverted people. The vendors are probably not too far from that either. And but they're a little more dedicated to the sell. And so I find that a lot of the hard sell from vendors is just comes off like, I don't know, super awkward. It's almost always awkward for
oh,
me.
dude, yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially if you like look at the WoW wall and you go, oh, cool, look at that one. They're like, all right, I can do that. I can do 300 on this one. You're like, fuck, dude, fuck, no, no, I didn't. I just thought that was
Yeah.
cool to see that comic. I'm not trying to bargain with you on that. I guess we're starting to stepping back into the cons of cons and not the pros
Yeah.
of cons. So let's pull it out of the ditch.
I think we already did the pros and cons. I don't that's all there is, Levi. That's it. Just don't go to comic conventions. I don't
The opinions expressed do not represent the opinions of comics making the comic book.
okay, so
But they
pro
definitely represent the opinions because it's us and it's what we think.
so at the end of the last episode, I talked about one of the worst shows I ever did was the first time I did Fluke, and I sold like one book, and it was my first time back, and it was not what I needed at the time, just, you know, being so excited about being back to comics and trying to do something. And then you go to your first show and, at that point it was probably, I mean, I hadn't done a show probably in 6 or 7 years or something like that. And it just being an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
Um, but a few years ago I did Fluke and it was like, wow, just nonstop traffic to my table, nonstop sales. And so that's, for when it comes to pros, when the sales are coming in, it's such a high for
Oh,
me,
yeah.
and that's, and I think that is what kind of gets you into the danger zone, I think. Where we talked about being cautious last episode is when you do have those shows where you're doing gangbusters.
Mm,
Um, how many of those are, it's so weird. I've tried to map it as like when sales are coming in. And sometimes it's as simple as if you get two or three people stopping at your table at the same time
yeah.
and they're looking at your stuff. Well, that generates just those two to three people generates interest in the people that are walking by. And they're like, why why are those people standing there? It must be important.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you've got a bunch of people. This happened to me actually the first year I did Heroes Con back in so this would have been 99. I think 99. No, it might have been 98. Anyway, long time ago. And I did really good at that first Heroes convention. And that happened. Where all of a sudden I had like three or four people around our table. And at one point I looked up and there was like uh, 10 to 15 people like gathered around the table. I had to go back and reprint stuff. Because we were running out of stuff.
Nice.
Um, that was a great show. It was a great feeling. Um, and but you can't like I don't think you can manufacture that two to three people and then that grows into five, that grows into seven, that grows into 15.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't know what it says about the psychology of a of a
Well,
human and seeing that, I mean it's like we talked about the Dodge, no
yeah.
one ever goes from table to table to table. They almost always go every other. They stop at that one and they do the quick glance. I think especially if they buy something, I think there's that part of their subconscious that's like, well, I just spent money. So
Yeah.
I'm going to at least avoid spending money at the next table. I don't know. I don't know.
True.
Um,
And that I think that could be another episode, the psychology of
See,
con.
I did a pros and then went right back into cons. I don't know how to do this, Levi. They're all
Well, I think conventions are great, and every the honors in the nomination. To be honest, if they let you buy a table, then that should serve its own purpose.
You're gonna get me right back into cons talking about this shit. Yeah.
So, but no, I mean, because I'm an optimist, and I look at things like through rose-colored glasses in that sense, and 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 yeah, making those connections. I mentioned in the last episode. But at Matthews, there were a couple people that came up and they got the mini comic last year. They were hoping I had a lot more done. Instead, I had the second chapter, fleshing out that 12-page mini comic into a 20-page, full comic with some extras on there. They were happy about that, but they really wanted more. And that made me feel really great. And then just the cutting up, that we did and just being silly and when there'd be a lull with foot traffic, you know, kind of like getting a conversation going around the room about random stuff until all of a sudden people start coming back in. You're like, oh, well, places, everyone, places, game face on, make your sales. Um, you know, that kind of, like generates camaraderie, that I enjoy. I feed off that. I feed off those types of things. And at a bigger convention, and you have like what I call your neighborhood, and we all start, you know, when you have enough people just kind of like artist alley dodge through the whole gauntlet, and we all like crack, wise about it, and then someone gets someone to stop, and everyone's just kind of like, make a sale, make a sale, make a sale, and we see them walking, them walking off with the book, and we're like, yeah, you did it, cheering each other on, just having fun in that sense. Um, or those rare times that every table's got people there, and every table's selling comics, and that wave, also passes, and we all look at each other and it's like, that was good. How do we do that again? You know, um, that's awesome. And then having the
Yeah.
opportunity once again to move around, and maybe you're shopping for yourself a little bit, looking for those things that you're wanting to find. Just getting a chance to be at the convention. But I will say this, I did love this when we tabled a few years back at Heroes Con. I remember, and that was 2015, we did that. And I remember Saturday morning, drove up, parked, you know, not exactly half in the bag, coffee in hand, my stuff. Saturday morning is the busiest day of all the days. And there were people in the convention center just sitting, just wrapped around up and down. I mean, we're talking yards and yards of people, waiting to line up for the convention to open to get in. And I'm just like walking up, got my little lanyard there, um, just walking straight up, and there were people like kind of like looking like, who's that? Who's that? I was like, yeah, good morning, morning, to the security people, and just going in and going down the escalator to the exhibit hall. I'm like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
For
not
the
gonna
most,
lie. That's
the most
that's
shallow reason, but that's kind of
so
cool.
that's one of my favorite parts of doing a big show like that, where there is this giant line outside, is coming back before the show opens and just showing my badge and walking right in. It's great. Actually, the year I was sitting at your table, but you missed because you had COVID. Sunday my daughter came with me and we got her a badge, but it was just like a attendee badge or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and I'd asked them, can she come in before the show starts? And they were like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so we're getting on the elevator going through their security, and the guy looks at her badge and he goes, oh, whoa, whoa, and I go, no, she's with me, and he goes, oh, all right, and that was it, and I was just like, that's right, that's right, she's
Yeah,
with
yeah.
me. And that's all it took. Oh, that's all we need. Just,
Awesome.
I mean, that's the big thing is, as long as a show is stroking our ego, we're okay with it.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes up for the lack of sales if there are, if it's one of those shows. No, I mean, like we said in the cons, just pick the show that's right for you, know what you're getting into. It's your money, spend it however you want to. Um, but there's a lot of like good things. I guess what do they call it? Like if they're not tangible benefits, they're but you know, whatever the corporate word is. Um, I guess that's a way of looking on the bright side.
yeah,
But
yeah,
and I guess it comes down to expectations. Um, there are people I'm sure that have the highest expectations. I mean, having a good show like you mentioned, could falsely set your expectations in a place where they they probably shouldn't be for the next show. But you want to be hopeful. You hope you're on a streak. You hope you're gaining traction, you know.
yeah.
I guess it's
I,
just a bunch of
I, I'm pretty, if you can't tell, bit of a pessimist, and I always try and have the lowest expectations for a show. But here's the thing. That's what I try, and I'm like, I'm not gonna sell anything. I'm just like, it's gonna be a waste of time. But in the back of my head, I'm like, this could be the best show ever. This could be it. And so like I say I'm a pessimist, but I guess I'm kind of not, because
yeah.
it's always in my head that, like, this could be the one. Maybe this is the one where I break $1,000 or something like that,
It's the
or if I
one
do
where that
awesome.
that publisher who's just waiting to drop, all kinds of bank into the next big thing
Nah, I don't give a shit
stops
about
at
that.
your table and goes, "Hey, this Slackmatic here. That looks pretty good. What do
Yeah,
you say? What do you look over this contract?
yeah, I'd probably wipe my ass with it.
That'll chafe."
Oh man,
So,
you know what? I'm gonna tell you. Oh God, I should have done this in the con episode. Here's one of my pet peeves. One of my pet peeves is being around some of the comic artists that literally just want to be jobbers. They just want to be a penciler. They just want to be an inker. And hearing them talk about inking samples and going over to places and being an assistant and just blacking in areas like I and so for me that's a pet peeve. I can't stand that shit. I don't understand that shit. Um, if we could be monetized, we'd be demonetized by now because I just don't get that fucking shit. I wanna make my own stuff. And so when I'm around some of those people, which I'm gonna say is the vast majority of artists that like set up an artist alley, um, I just don't get it.
well, here's
Um,
the deal. Like we've said it before in other episodes, man. Those jobs do exist, but man, I'm not saying they will never ever go away, but compared to it's almost people our age as well that,
no,
that have that mindset.
well, and that's the thing. Not to cut you off, but but
Yeah.
but I'm gonna cut you off. And then if you're talking about a waste of time for those people, that's a waste of time. Like they don't because you don't get those jobs at shows anymore. It's
I mean,
not like
yeah,
that anymore.
it just yeah, I mean, and I've said it before, like, the job that I would have wanted in the, major comics doesn't really exist in 2024.
Yeah.
I want a job that existed in 1990, right? Um, and it's just not there. I'm not saying that like it's disappeared, but the amount of people that want it and the amount of opportunities available, I mean, come on, do the math. And with the new crop of people coming up, you have all around creatives doing doing their thing. I mean, they're making shit, straight out the gate at a much younger age. I mean, follow your dreams, whatever. But but it's like, yeah, I mean, maybe we'll edit this and put it in the cons.
Nah.
But yeah, no, no, it's staying right here. It's staying right here. But yeah, dude,
The the the
I'm right.
point
I'm right with
is
that.
the cons are right here, almost at the top of my screen. The pros are right about there. Okay. That's
I'm
about
I'm more like here. I'm
no.
like here. That's
That's okay.
we
That's
gotta
Levi.
we gotta
Levi's right
we gotta keep
here.
it happy. We
I'm
gotta keep.
right here. I'm right here.
Speaking of
I'm
cons,
still gonna do it. You know,
speaking of cons and how pissed off we
right.
are at conventions, what is
Yeah.
our next appearance gonna be?
So come see us at Library Con May 18th in Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's at their main branch library. Um, it's on a Saturday. They've never done it on a Saturday during the day. It's a great small little show for kids. So come check us out there. And then way off in the future in September, we are doing SpaCon in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Um, so if you're in that area, come see us there. That'll be a
Absolutely.
first for me for sure.
And
So
and definitely go up to Ryan, put your hand on his shoulder, tell him it's gonna be okay because he will be miserable.
hey, but let me say something real quick. So, we live in Charlotte and we're going all the way to Arkansas, 14 hours away to do this show in Hot Springs. The reason we're doing a show there is because Levi's from there and his dad lives there. So we have a free place to stay. Um, and if we had to like get a hotel and all sorts of other shit, I would have been like, yeah, I don't think so. Um, I don't know. I might still have done it, but you
Yeah.
know. but I do want to make a that's why we're doing that show, you know.
Yeah,
So
it seems like it's a fun show. It's been going on for a little bit, and I think yeah, I think we'll be pleasantly surprised, not surprised. I mean, I'm not expecting bad things from it, of course, but that's the trap, isn't it?
yeah.
What could go wrong? But no, it looks like a good fun show. It's in my hometown, where I grew up, and that will be it's just a funky town. I mean, there's a lot of things, about that town that's funky. There's a casino which you may or may not be able to find Ryan and I in during the course of that weekend.
Depends on how good the show is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If it goes good, we'll be there. If it goes bad, we'll be there.
I know.
We
You know
gotta
what?
get home some.
We're just gonna be there.
All right.
Levi, you got anything you want to push before we get out of here?
Oh yeah. The first issue of the Big, the complete issue is out, and it is available digitally to patrons. If you were not at the Matthews Comic Con a couple weeks ago, limited amount were available there, but they will be held back until my Kickstarter launches in mid-June. So please, links in the description down below for Ryan's stuff, my stuff. Look for that Kickstarter coming out. Please consider our Patreons becoming a member there. Ryan has got like buku content there for you to enjoy, and I've got stuff I'm releasing as I work on the second issue of the Big. Not Bigfoot related, different projects I've done, but that's starting to trickle in, as well as updates on how that goes. So please consider supporting us by becoming a member of our respective Patreons, and be on the lookout for the Kickstarter for the Big. And that is about all I know right now. Ryan,
All right.
let's get out of here.
I've got The Egg, new 24-page black and white comic. I have it on my Etsy store. It's only $6. I've also got a couple other new books there. So go check that out. I only printed like 50 of them and I'm not reprinting anymore. And I've been getting orders all week. So get it while you can. And like Levi said, my Patreon is patreon.com/slackmatic. And it's just $2 a month. And you get all of my comics as soon as they're done up there.
That
And that's
is
all I got.
and that is awesome. Do those things, and
Just do the damn thing.
we'll see you.
Later.